All right, you've arrived at the coolest part of this project. After all the work you've done, drawing, splatting, tracing and transferring, now we're going to explore technique. As you know from the earth tone projects, you always begin watercolor with pale saturation. That's why we started so light at the beginning, because that's the part that people forget. It's a layering process. As we get further along, we can start using a little more saturation as we go, as long as you can see through it. It can be pretty bold. So there are moments on here that you can get a little bit bold, but you're only using the two hues that you started with, and you're going to be using the techniques from the toolbox of techniques, which is options, glazing, lift out. Do you have your paper towel handy? You can use even wash as well as controlled blending. You can use drip down in a variety of ways. You can drip down behind things. You can drip down between things. You can drip down on top of things. You can use even wash. And you can use drip down in front of things. These are all your little toolbox plus your dry brush. I wouldn't recommend using more than two. My dog is digging a hole. Ollie, dig the other way. So I got a couple mud things on here. It's just dirt, whatever. Alright, so you have your picture, and the picture's a great reference for deciding what you want to leave white, what you want to cover, and maybe things you want to shift around. I've already begun, and I wanted to show you some of the techniques that I've incorporated so far, keeping in mind that one of your values is going to be cooler than the other, so cool tends to go back. I'm going to be using my red-violet in areas like this, and I might use my yellow-green in areas like that, or you'll see that I switched it up a bit based on saturation. So this is what I have so far. Very preliminary, but I'm using this as a guide, but mostly I'm looking at it as a design and what I want to use to create that white showing through and how to preserve the splatter effect. Most importantly, don't use line until the very end, and even then, maybe not at all. The carbon line is usually sufficient. If you do have to, definitely use the most controlled round brush that you can that goes to a point so that you can get lost and found saturation. Lost and found line is so important. If you have a line like this all the way around your picture, it's going to ruin the whole picture, and all your work is for nothing. You'll have to start over, because then you have a big old cartoon drawing, and that means you've outlined everything. Now, a lost and found line is strategic, is delicate, it disappears, it breaks up, and it allows you to only do it in key moments, such as when things overlap. And then you could even fill behind so that you don't have such a heavy line. It's very strategic. See how now the shape is defined by a shape here and not a line. The line should be, if anything, barely visible. I haven't even done really a line here. Maybe I can't even find one right now because they're just not good to do. Okay, so I'm going to continue on. I have dry brush here, dry brush here. I have even wash here. I did drip down within here. I did a little more. Let's see what I have. That's it so far for technique for me. I did lift out. I did lift out when things got a little heavy-handed. Oh, lift out here. Because the lift out was what I did in the initial splatter, so it worked with it. So I'm just going to continue on and show you what I've been working on. This is clearly light, light, light. So, and never make that dark. That would just look like a spoke in a wheel or something. I would not deal with that. I'm just going to get my yellow green out, real pale saturation, Always test it out, always make sure the saturation's good. That looks pretty good. And I'm gonna start flaring these in. So I wanna save the splatter, but I'm gonna flip this upside down like we did with a lot of even wash shapes. And see how I'm flaring it in? Because I'm trying to get a little dry brush. I don't want to emphasize this area a lot. It's kind of an awkward, clowny. I don't want this to be a jarring moment for the viewer. The goal is always to not do what is expected. You know, do something original and deliberate and conscious. So I'm doing a little hint of this real pale. And I'm not going to fill it all in. See, that's the thing. If I go all the way around, it's like crossing a T that I don't need to. I'm going to do a little hint of something here and let that go. Boom. That's all I need. That takes care of this. I'm not doing those weird dots. I'm not doing that. It's just decisions like that that we're making. Now, here I put the red violet, which makes this very difficult to come forward, but I was playing with it. This I probably could have done red violet, this yellow, but I want to balance the design. I want to nuance things. I want to create my own expression of this thing. And I don't want to overdo. It's better to underdo. When you underdo and then post it, you get great observations and feedback from people that gives you an opportunity to take baby steps after. If you just go for it and do it, like you did on the splatter, which is a different experience, you're not getting the nuance. See, the goal is to have this spontaneous, crazy, wild splatter, and then this controlled, subtle design system that we talked about from the beginning with the glazing, just very deliberate. And not really being focused on what it is again. But you can use this as a reference for values. For example,